Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Ham Nation is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Ham Nation, episode number 27, recorded November 29th, 2011. The kids are all right. Hey, everybody. Ham Nation is on the air. I'm Gary Pearce, KN4AQ. I am the producer for Amateur Radio Video News at a series of, I forget what I make. Oh, documentaries and seminars available on DVD. And by the way, they make good Christmas presents for the ham who has everything but a bunch of ARVN DVDs. Help me. Oh, by the way, Bob Heil is out tonight. He's not on Thanksgiving vacation. He's not over the river and through the woodsing. I think he's heading out to another one of those conferences where he's going to peddle his little microphones. So Bob will be back next week. So I get to steer and pilot the show this evening. Helping me out, as usual, is my friend Gordon, WB6NOA out on the West Coast. And Gordon, you got some guests in the shack that we will introduce in a minute, but how are you doing out there?
Oh, we're doing just fine, and we're here in the shack with three of our young adult. We can't call them kids, so we're ready when you're ready. Go ahead.
Well, that's right. This is Youth Month. It's been Youth Month all month. It's the last show on Youth Month, so we are bringing the average age of Ham Nation, at least, considerably lower than it has been since the beginning of the show. You know, the sad thing is about the age of the folks on Ham Nation is I think I'm the youngest. I'm not real sure. Let me check. Our third regular host is George, W5. George, I've lost your call sign. Help me out here.
W5JDX.
I see it. I am so unprepared for the program tonight. George, if I may be so bold, how old are you?
I'm 55 years young, soon be 56.
Oh, okay, because I was going to say I was the youngest guy on Ham Nation, but not by a long shot. You are the youngest guy. And so you're not retired. You're still working?
Oh, yes, and will be for quite a few years yet.
Well, see, the reason I was wondering is you do so many things with the amateurlogic.tv that I thought you must be retired so that you'd have time to do all that stuff. I have no idea how you fit this stuff into your schedule.
Well, it's, let's just say I'm one busy guy. And we have a new episode of Amateur Logic out right now that we'd like everyone to go check out at amateurlogic.tv. A fun episode, another jam-packed one, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, I took a look at it. It's a great show. It happens to have a short little video toward the end that Ham Nation viewers may be familiar with if they watched a couple of episodes ago. And I appreciate your sticking that in for me, although I noticed that you cut off the Ham Nation ID at the end. It's very, very local network of you.
I don't remember that. I didn't do the editing this time around, but yeah, it's possible something got cut off of it. And we also had another special guest in this past episode. It was none other than Gordon West.
Yeah, so it's like a Ham Nation incursion into amateur logic, which is very cool. Now, you have some help with amateur logic. You are like the central guy in amateur logic, and you've got Tommy and Jim. And who's that little fella from Australia that helps you out there?
That is Peter, VK3PB. He's in Melbourne and joined us a few years back on the show, and he's brought a lot to it. As a matter of fact, in this most recent one, he built a one-tube regenerative receiver, and it runs with 12 volts of plate voltage. I don't know how he does it.
Okay, so it's a great show, and it runs about, I don't know, what is this one, about an hour?
Just over an hour. They're usually plus or minus an hour, just a little bit.
And you get into some somewhat more technical stuff than mostly what we do here. Well, the kind of things that you see in Smoke and Solder at the end of Ham Nation, you spend a whole show doing that kind of stuff. Well, it's a variety show. You're Lawrence Welk, I think.
Yeah, we do a lot of different stuff. I'm not the only one who builds stuff on there. Jimmy and Tommy and Peter occasionally build something as well. And we may have something on there that's nothing at all to do with ham radio, but just something that one of us likes to do. And we try to keep it entertaining and, have a little feedback from our viewers as well. So it's been a lot of fun. We've been at it for 6 years now.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's about monthly. And I guess for a while you weren't quite making the monthly schedule, but I see most of this year you've been cranking one out every month. And that's pretty impressive, and this program is not edited. We just pretty much, we talk for an hour, and then off it goes. But Amateur Logic is, some of the segments are pretty highly edited. There's a lot of post-production that goes in on that, so you do a lot of work.
Yeah, just like you do on Amateur Radio Video News, I know that takes a great deal of time to do as well. And yours are maybe a little more polished than what we do. There'll be some stuff slipped through on ours that you might not see in other places, but, it's all pre-produced, so it does take a good bit of time.
Well, speaking of being polished, and it may be too late for this program, I was trying to really do a good job on this program. I think I've already, behind the curve on that. But Regis Philbin has retired from his show, and I thought I'm going to use this program tonight as my launch pad for trying to weasel my way into that program. Now, that was my plan. And I think, this is a good stepping stone. Ham Nation, and then live with, what it would be is live with Kelly, because she's going to get top billing, because now she's the incumbent. Live with Kelly and KN4AQ. Gordon, how does that sound to you? Do you think I've got a chance at weaseling my way in on that?
Well, I think it's going to be pretty interesting. We'll check it with Bob, and we'll see which way we go.
And I had come up with this plan before I listened to Leo's program over the weekend, the tech guy. Turns out he knows Regis. He's sort of like Regis's personal, private internet and technical guru. So, with Leo knowing Regis, I think I'm probably a shoo-in. Cindy, my wife, KD4ACW, has told me that it is okay if I get the gig. We'll move to New York, and I'll just have to make a few $1 million a year. But it's okay with her, so we'll be doing that. Also, speaking of doing videos, and George, I want to check with you on this. The ARRL has a video contest that they have launched recently, and they've got 2 categories for it. They're looking for people to make videos about ham radio. And ham radio has not had a lot of really good video production over the past however long it's been. And I'm not sure why. There's a lot of YouTube video out there about ham radio. Most of it is not very good. In fact, when QST reviewed my program, Digital Voice for Amateur Radio, which was very nice of them to give me a good review, they had mentioned that a lot of the stuff on YouTube done by hams is, their words, cringeworthy. So let's see what they can come up with for this contest. This is the 2nd year that the contest has been run. So drop by the ARRL website and look for details on the video contest. They've got 2 categories for the contest this year. They've got amateur, people who are just making home movie type stuff. And then they've got professionals. George, are you guys going to put something into the contest? And if you do, are you professionals?
Good question. I was unaware of the contest, so yeah, we might put something into it. I don't know how we would enter. We've never made any money, so I don't guess we would be professionals, but I guess it depends on who you ask. And I had one thing I wanted to mention here, Gary. Tonight we're going to give away one of these little MFJ clocks, and this one says that it's 2:10, and that is the correct time no matter where you are. So stay tuned. Later in the show, we're going to give away this 24-hour clock.
Okay, so you'll disclose the details of how this giveaway will happen later on towards Smoke and Solder.
Yes. As a matter of fact, right after Smoke and Solder.
Excellent. I don't have a clock sitting back here. I could use one, so I'll be looking forward to being able to put my bid in. That video contest, speaking of making money, it's pretty good prizes. It's worth trying to win this thing. The top prize in each category, amateur and professional, is $500. So that's certainly worth heading out for. A 5-minute video is what they're looking for, and generally the fun and excitement of amateur radio. So that's the kind of thing that they're looking for. And let's see if we can get something that is not cringeworthy. Speaking of video, let me toss in one more thing. In looking over the stuff for this contest, I've discovered that the ARRL has their own YouTube channel, ARRL HQ, youtube.com/ARRLHQ. And they've got a lot of interesting videos on there, some of which are cringeworthy. A lot of interviews and stuff. But there was one particular one that I wanted to call your attention to because I was just fascinated by it. Put together by Dave Bell, W6AQ. No relation, even though we share the same suffix on a call sign. Dave is one of those guys, one of the ham radio Hollywood mafia, along with Bill Pasternak at WA6ITF and a bunch of guys. They're the guys that have been putting together, well, literally movies for ham radio since the 1970s. And they put together one that I don't remember ever seeing, but it was put together in the 1970s. And since this is Youth Month, it is all teenagers in a video called This is Ham Radio. So if you go to the ARRL YouTube channel, you want to look for This is Ham Radio comments. That's the title you need to search up, or you'll come up with a whole lot of other This is Ham Radios. It'll be hard to tell what you're looking for. This is Ham Radio ampersand comments is the one you want to look for. It's about like 16 minutes. It's interesting to watch. Once again, produced back in the 1970s with a little commentary from Dave Bell. I'm not sure when he put this together. It's sometime in the past couple of years. It's just kind of updating things. So go take a look for that. This is Ham Radio comments. Let's see, what else have I got on my list here? FCC has a new report and order on 60 meters. We'll probably hear a little bit about this on Newsline coming up, but we're moving a channel on 60 meters. Channel 3, which was 5366.5, moves down 9.5 kilohertz to 5357.0. It's not happening yet. We don't know exactly when it's going to happen. It'll happen once the rules change has been published in the Federal Register. And I think they still use linotype machines on that. I think they're setting hot press type to print the Federal Register. So it hasn't come out yet, but 30 days after it gets published, and of course all the websites will have an update on when that's happening. In addition to moving the channel, we're going to up the power, 3 dB, from 50 watts to 100 watts, ERP, into a half-wave dipole. And we are going to permit CW and data and RTTY. So things are going to change quite a bit on 60 meters. This is something that the ARRL had requested some time ago. It's been going on for a couple of years. One of the reasons why is they realized that if you listen to Channel 3, most of the time, you hear that. That data signal is on there, at least at night, heard worldwide. Not sure where it's coming from, but I understand it's there quite a bit. So that channel became unusable, so we're going to move off of that channel and head to another. And let's see, one more thing. This coming Saturday is Skywarn Recognition Day. So tip of the hat to all the folks that participate in Skywarn. They're going to have a lot of ham stations set up at National Weather Service offices all over the country, and they'll be on HF, they'll be on repeaters, they'll be on Echolink, they'll be on D-Star, making lots of contacts and raising the profile of Skywarn among hams, among the general public, among the folks in the Weather Service. So they'll be looking for contacts with you this Saturday on Skywarn Recognition Day. Gordon, something else is happening this Saturday, is it not?
Let's see, the kids are going to be getting excited because they're getting rid of me. We're going to Atlanta to Ham Radio Outlet for the big open house. So we hope to see everybody in Atlanta. And my kids are waiting here with bated breath to say goodbye, Gordo, to Atlanta.
All right. And I believe I am going to see you down there. I've got it on my schedule. I'm going to be toting my video camera, and we'll do some interviews and talk to the hams and the folks at the store and generally see what's going on at this event down at the Ham Radio Outlet down in Atlanta. So if you're in the Atlanta area, come by. If you're in the Atlanta area, come by the HRO store. It's up on the north side of town, even though Gordon and I will be there. Come anyway. And I know they were trying to talk you into coming, George. Are you thinking about coming over? You got a little bit longer drive than I do.
I would sure like to, but unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to. I've got other commitments on Saturday. But I do have a friend who lives over in Atlanta, Tom. I can't recall his call letters right off, but he also does some video work and is going to show up on site.
Okay, good deal. Is he going to shoot for Amateur Logic?
No, he's actually shooting for his program. I believe it's HQA Radio. He does a weekly Sunday afternoon ham radio related program that some of our viewers might want to check out as well.
Okay, what is that program again? HQA Radio?
Yes, HQA Radio.
All right, another podcast. There's a lot of them out there. I haven't seen them all, but there's a lot of them. And I think I've just about exhausted my list here. So, Gordon, I think it's time to bring in some of our guests. This is Youth Month, and you've got some youth there in your shack. But first, we are going to move our way over into the Kansas City area, I believe, and talk to Duncan McLaughlin, KU4DM. And Duncan, are you tuned in? Hello and welcome to Ham Nation.
Hey, Gary, how you doing? Quick correction, it's KU0DM, but coming out from the Kansas City area. How are you hearing me this evening?
You're loud and clear. My Skype return has frozen, so I can't see what's going on out there, and hopefully that'll clear up. I guess everything is going out over the network okay, but I
And we
can't
hear
see.
you fine, Duncan. Go right ahead. Hi, Duncan.
How you doing, Gordon? Just excited to be on the show tonight, and excited to see some youngins in your shack as well. I think we determined I'm the oldest one on here, and that's a first for me, so this is a new experience.
Well, very
Excellent.
good.
Well,
Duncan, how long have you been into ham radio, and what's your best part of ham radio, Duncan?
Well, I got licensed in 2006 when I was 11, and initially got licensed as a technician with code. I've got 15 hams that are family members, or 15 family members that are hams. So it was by choice, but it was also, didn't really have much of an option. And I'm really big into the contesting and DXing. That's really kind of my
Oh, that
my
sounds
forte.
great. Now, I understand you're pretty good at CW. Is that right?
I'd like to think so. I'm a little rusty. I haven't done any CW in a while. But this summer when I was in Costa Rica with the Youth DX Adventure Crew that you guys had a couple weeks ago, I think I picked up the mic for the first time in about a year. So.
Oh, that's terrific. Okay. Well, Duncan, what would you recommend to these other kids that we've got here in our shack to spread the word about ham radio? What's your best recommendation?
Well, I think I've really got two answers for that. The one thing I found that always works is contesting or DXing. And that's really because, that adrenaline rush, the competitiveness and competition is something that comes natural to all of us, regardless of age or interests. But then at the same time, I also think that if there's a certain facet of the hobby that you're really passionate about, that you should also push that. Because, that's going to be something that you can speak about and be sincere about and know a lot about. But personally, I've always found contesting and DXing to be, great hooks.
Yeah, I understand you're quite the contester. What's the next big contest coming up, Duncan?
Hoping to do 160 CW, CQ Worldwide 160 CW at the University of Kansas Club Station. So that's what I got on my schedule.
Duncan, we're always looking for that magic bullet that interests teens in ham radio. And when we were talking before the show, you were saying that that contesting is for you the big thing. And I think you were saying you're surprised that we don't push contesting more as the way to interest people. And I think you're probably right.
Yeah, and you know, I think there's definitely a lot of politics that surrounds it, and I think a big key thing is to get past all that, and really contesting and DXing is a great way to attract youth into ham radio, because like I just said, it's got that competitive element, the same element that sports have, and if you look at why sports are so popular among youth, it's because the exposure they have to it. So we've got that same element of competition and that same rush of blood to the head in ham radio. We just don't have the exposure.
Oh, that's great. Well, Duncan, let's go to some of our other guests, but don't go away because we'll probably come back to you just before we go on with Newsline. And thanks a million for joining us. And as a good ham would say, good luck in the contest. Now, joining us today is Elijah, WA6 Echo Mike Delta. Hi, Elijah. How old are you?
I am 15.
1-5. Now, Elijah, they were saying that you didn't need to wear the tie, but where do you wear the tie?
Queen Mary.
Oh, you're a Queen Mary operator, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, Elijah, we had some questions come in from the chat room over the last few weeks, and they said, just for kids, Elijah, when you work a station in England, is the big deal working at Skywave, or is the big deal to you a nice, clear contact on IRLP or Echolink? What's the biggest one for you?
Definitely HF. More on 40 meters. I enjoy 40 meters.
Wow.
I haven't worked England, but New Zealand and stuff, so that's fun. But
you like the Skywave excitement, huh?
Oh, yeah, definitely. 100 times more than Echolink and IRLP.
Okay, well, that's a good answer, and I'm the same way. I get a big thrill out of, even though it's with noise, working the station Skywave. All right, Elijah, the next question is from our chat room. What can adult ham operators do to attract more kids into your hobby? How's that a good one, huh?
Well, I would definitely say stuff to do with space, satellites, AL-51, the space station, definitely. Because I don't think it'll really do much to show them HF in the beginning, because they'll say, I can do that with my cell phone. So,
well, that's a good point. All right. Next question. That's a great answer. What do you plan to do next in your ham radio hobby and service? And I know you've been playing around a lot with the new type of Chinese radios that have been coming into the country. What's your favorite, and how do you plan to make money doing that when you get a real job after school?
Well, I sell Oshing handhelds, which are Woxon, but pronounced Oshing, and Wufong, so that helps a little bit. So we get new radios, and I buy stuff and restore things with that money. So
yeah, Dad says that you're a big fan of old-time radios. What's your old-time classic?
Probably the Swan 350 is what I have, and I enjoy the most.
Wow, a lot of Swan 350 users. Okay, a couple more questions. What's the most fun for you, Elijah, in ham radio? That comes from Tina from New York City.
Well, I enjoy HF the most, but I do a lot of work on 2 meters. But HF, definitely.
Okay, HF is your favorite. And finally, how has ham radio increased your skills to make a little bit of spare change? And tell them about your modification for adding channels in these new handhelds.
Well, actually, it's not a modification. I just program stuff in if someone has a problem, or if they ever need anything, or help with their Oshing or Wufong Chinese handhelds, or whatever I can do. Whatever's in my power, I try and do my best to help them out.
Oh, that's great. Now, where do they go to maybe get in contact with you, Elijah?
Actually, you can email. Just send an email to info@wouxun.us and just put Elijah in the subject line, and I'll get that.
Okay, good. Well, Elijah, thanks so much for coming on into the shack. And the final question is, what's a turn off for kids when you're at a ham fest? What is not really exciting?
Hams who need showers.
Hams that need showers. Okay, good.
Never happens.
All right,
Never happens except maybe at a ham fest.
Yeah, there you go. And well, sometimes we don't get a chance to take a shower. All right, Daniel. And Daniel, your call sign phonetically?
Kilo India 6 Tango November Echo.
Oh, that's great. Well, thanks, Daniel, for joining us. I see you're in uniform, and that goes great with the first question. What got your interest to becoming a licensed ham radio operator?
Well, what first got me interested was my dad. When he first got his license, I didn't really understand it at that point. But then when I first realized that I could get a ham radio merit badge and an electronics merit badge, I jumped right into it to get that merit badge and my license.
Oh, that is terrific. So the radio merit badge, in fact, we've got some radio merit badge paperwork here. That's a good way for kids to get into ham radio, especially scouts.
Oh, yeah. Scouts are a great part of ham radio. They get really interested in it, and it also helps them get towards their Eagle Scout.
Oh, that's terrific. And by the way, for those of you that are teaching ham radio, if you send me an email, wb6noa@arrl.net, I've got a free booklet from the W5YI group that talks all about the Scout Merit Badge, the Radio Merit Badge, and how you can relate that to technician class. All right, here's a new question coming from Sid in Memphis. He says, what's more important, Daniel, getting the extra class license as a kid or just working the bands you have as a tech or general?
Getting your extra sure is important, but one of the most important things is to work the bands that you have as a technician and a general, because that's just always the most fun.
All right. Yeah,
He's been listening to you. He's been listening to you. That's your propaganda line.
Oh, that's terrific. Well, we sure agree there that more important, rather than spending time just to do an upgrade by memorizing questions, is to actually get on the air and start operating. All right, Daniel's next question is, what's your favorite ham band?
Well, my favorite ham band is the 2 meter and 440 because so many people are on there and they're such great people. But I like getting on the higher frequencies and talking all around the world.
Oh, that's great. Now, you can talk around the world on a UHF system. Tell them about, I heard you the other night on the WIN system, huh?
Yeah, WIN system is a great program. You're able to join it and still talk all over the world on the UHF and higher frequencies.
Yeah, the WIN system, winsystem.org, and it's on IRLP with as many as 20 or 30 repeaters all tuned in together thanks to a shorty on the WIN system. All right, a couple more. What's a turn on at a ham fest for hams that are young? A turn on.
Well, the turn-ons for me are the demos that get kids really interested, because if they're able to see what you're able to do, that will get them interested a lot more.
Oh, that's good. So a lot of live stuff happening for kids. All right, if a pal asked you how to become a ham operator, a fellow young student, where would you tell them to go for more information?
Well, at first I'd give them the ARRL website. That is www.arrl.org/new ham, and then that will just be a great way for them to get there. And then the next one, I'd give them the W5YI, which is w5yi.org.
Oh, that's great. And both the league as well as the W5YI group are doing everything they can to get more kids into ham radio. Any last thoughts on scouting and ham radio and all that Daniel and his parents do to make ham radio happen?
Well, scouting and ham radio is just a great way to get younger people on the air, because if they can get their ham radio merit badge, they're able to know what it's about. And if they can get on those higher frequencies, if they don't have their license yet for like Jamboree on the air, that's just a great way for them to get interested.
Oh, that's great. Well, Daniel, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll let you slide over one. And that's our good friend Daniel, and he and Mom and Dad help out a lot with our ham radio classes. All right, our third, and we saved the best for last. Spencer, give him, if you would, your call sign phonetically.
Okay, the call is Spencer, NG6K. That's November Golf 6 Kilo. Yeah, it's a 2x1 call sign. I think before we go to questions, I want to give a little history about myself and ham radio, because it's not the usual ham kid story. I've been interested in electronics since I was about 2 years old. Yep, just 2 years old. sitting in the house replacing outlets with my dad, and it just escalated up to getting a scanner at about age 11 in sixth grade. From there, at seventh grade, I got my technician license. About three months later, I got my general, and about a year after that, I upgraded to extra. So really took the fast course there, and I loved every minute of ham radio.
Oh, that is terrific, Spencer. We hear Spencer doing a lot of nets. Now, how many nets do you roll a week, huh?
I officially roll 1 month. I am the first Tuesday of the month SORA net controller. That's the South Orange Amateur Radio Association. SORA net controller, and that's a lot of fun. We run Newsline, and we have news behind the news with our very own Gordo.
Oh, well, thank you. All right. Now, some of the questions for the chat room, it says, what is your favorite iPhone ham app? Do you have one of those magic phones, and what's a good app?
Well, I'm sorry, not an iPhone fanboy, but I have an Android, and my favorite app is NKC Cluster, which lets me get on the cluster and check the X when I'm not at home and around the computer.
Oh, well, and I suppose you've probably got a program to do IRLP, or actually Echolink, to be able to talk on your Android and end up on HF or VHF.
Oh, yeah, we've got all that and got the whole thing loaded up with ham radio apps.
Oh, wow, that's great. All right, now I know where to go when we get the new Android. What can your local club or school do better to get more kids into ham radio? That comes from Kathy, one of our viewers out of San Francisco. So what can we do to get more kids into our hobby?
Well, I think if some of us could just come to school, I know school is one of the places where some of us, at least most of us, try to pay attention as much as we can to the sciences and that kind of thing. If we have more hams, I think, come to school while we're focused on the curriculum, I think that'll let us grab them a little bit more.
Oh, that's great. All right, your final question. Have you been to a ham fest that had, we call it the Kids Connection, where you see the big table, many times staffed by ARRL personnel, helping kids do a little bit of soldering and putting things together? Have you seen one of those happen at a ham fest?
No, I have not, but I'm really looking forward to that.
Well, there's a lot of ham fests coming up, and that'll be happening. All right, any last words, Spencer, to us oldsters? I'm probably the oldest one in the crowd here, on how to get more kids into ham radio. And then we're going to go back to you, Duncan, so don't go away. Spencer?
Well, I think it's just encouraging them, making it fun, and having a lot of fun demos. Like, I've built a Tesla coil last summer just to demonstrate some high voltage for some scouts. I think having some fun demos, and I got baptized by fire in HF, and I think something like that, especially some of the newer kids that are just whiz kids with electronics and computers, I think that'd be a great way to get them into ham radio.
Oh, that's terrific. Well, Spencer, NG6K, Daniel, KI6TNE, Elijah, WA6EMD, thank you, kids, for joining us on Ham Nation. And I know that those in the chat room have even more questions that we'll try and get to a little bit later on. But let's now go back to Duncan. And Duncan, what do you think of some of the answers to the question that these great ham kids have been able to answer? Go ahead, Duncan.
You know, I think all their answers are spot on in terms of addressing some of the problems we face in ham radio today. I'm just recruiting the younger generation. I especially liked what Daniel's talking about with Radio Merit Badge. I'm a scout myself. And I think Boy Scouting is one of those great institutions that is already in place that hams just need to figure out a better way to infiltrate, if you will, and use that to kind of spread the word.
Well, that's great. Well, thank you so much, Duncan, for joining us a little bit long distance from Southern California, and we hope to see you somewhere soon. And again, to our kids, thanks so much. We're going to let the kids go. We're going to go back to net control and do a little bit of Newsline. So again, this is our future, ladies and gentlemen, these great kids making ham radio grow.
I've got one quick question that everybody can jump in on. When you get on the air, most of the folks you talk to are going to be people like Gordon and me, and you know, people 20, 30 years older than you are. How do those conversations go? Do you feel comfortable talking to us old fogies?
Yeah, that's a good one for Spencer. Are we like old fogies to you?
Not at all. You're just like the young ones like us. Young at heart.
Yeah, all right. Elijah?
Definitely not. I actually am more comfortable talking to old people than I am young people.
Okay, and Daniel?
I definitely don't think that. They're just great to talk to, and they have great knowledge.
Okay, so they say it's not a problem to talk to us oldsters.
Yeah, I believe that. Duncan, give me some honesty here. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with what they're saying. I think the one thing that's awesome about ham radio is it's a mutual interest that we all share. And I think that's one thing that's, probably the coolest thing about the hobby. So it doesn't matter who you are, where you're from. Kind of cheesy, but, I have to agree with them.
Yeah, Ray Novak on the chat room is saying, Gary, speak for yourself. Not all of us are in QCWA. The sad thing is I qualified for QCWA like 20 years ago. And I don't feel that old. I feel like I'm dangerously close to being middle-aged. Well, congratulations, you guys. We're really glad to have you in the hobby, and I'm looking forward to big things from all of you as time goes on, maybe talking to you on the radio. Gordon, it's probably time to check out the latest in ham radio news headlines, and I think we've got Robert Sudak hanging in the wings with Amateur Radio Newsline. Let's check out the news.
Thank you, guys, and hello, everybody. From the Amateur Radio Newsline, here are the Ham Nation headlines for November 29th, 2011. Rescue Radio again tops this week's news, this time from Reno, Nevada, where a massive firestorm put amateur radio on alert on November 18th. The cause of the blaze is uncertain, but weather conditions in the area created winds between 50 and 70 miles an hour. By dawn, more than 200 acres had been burned, along with many homes in the fire's path. Amateur Radio Newsline anchor Don Carlson, KQ6FM, is Nevada's Section Emergency Coordinator, and he provides a first-person report that you can hear in our audio edition at www.arnewsline.org. On November 18th, the FCC released a report and order with new rules governing amateur radio operations in the 5 megahertz or 60 meter spectrum. Among its actions, the FCC changed the regulations to permit upper sideband, RTTY, data, and CW, but with specific limitations on the use of these modes. It also issued a new 60-meter band channel list. The major change here was that the channel at 5366.5 kilohertz upper sideband was deleted and replaced with the new channel at 5357.0 kilohertz upper sideband. The 5 megahertz band is available to general, advanced, and amateur extra class licensees only. The maximum allowed effective radiated power is now 100 watts PEP, reference to a dipole. There are additional technical restrictions, so if you're interested in operating on this band, check out FCC ET docket number 10-98. This week's microphone comes to us from the Chris Clemenson collection, a workhorse on both ABC and CBS during the 50s and 60s. This Electro-Voice 655C, with its extremely flat frequency response, turned the heads of many network audio engineers who began selecting this microphone in place of the traditional RCA and Western Electric ribbons. Chris reminds us that this model microphone is recognizable as the one used by Walter Cronkite as he reported on the assassination of JFK. Thank you, Chris, for the use of the mic, and we'll be featuring several more from his collection in the weeks to come. And for this week, that's all from the Amateur Radio Newsline. I'm Robert Sudak, WB6FDF, 7-3, and see you next week on Ham Nation.
Thank you, Robert. Thanks for bringing us up to date on what's going on. Gordon, I think if Robert is going to use a microphone that was like what Walter Cronkite used to use, I think he ought to do it in a Walter Cronkite voice. Yeah. And that's the way it is. Amateur Newsline. I forgot what the date is. That would help out. If I was able to complete the, do it. How's my Walter, Gordon? Am I convincing? And that's the way it is.
I think you
turned your
microphone with the Regis.
You turned your microphone off there, Gordon, and we can't hear you. No, not hearing, no sound. I'm not getting any sound. Anybody getting any sound from Gordon?
Nope.
No, he's gone silent. Well, Gordon is trying to find his audio. George, it's time to head back to you. and it is smoke. The chat room goes smoke and solder, smoke and solder. They start that about 10 minutes ago, and the chant just keeps on going. So I guess we better do some smoke and solder. Over to you, George.
Sounds good, Gary. Tonight I'm going to build one of these, and, well, it's not exactly a radio topic, but something interesting anyway. So let's watch it, and then we'll talk about what I used it for later. For this week's project on Ham Nation, I was going to need a multimeter with a special probe. And the only meter I had that had this probe is one that lived in one of my vehicles. So I got the meter out, tested it, all seemed to be well. So I decided I would take a look at the battery. Well, I was kind of surprised when I saw that it hadn't been replaced since 2001. I decided I better check the batteries in my other test equipment as well. And I had another meter with a 2001 battery in it and a capacitor checker with a 2008 battery. It's a good thing I got to these before they started corroding. This is the last thing you'd want to see in a piece of your test equipment, so check those meter batteries. Now this battery shows no obvious corrosion on the outside. I thought I'd have a look on the inside and see what the real story was. Don't try this at home unless you know what you're doing. You can hurt yourself or maybe blow up a battery. When I looked inside, I was a bit surprised to see that there was corrosion going on in there indeed. Have you ever wondered what's inside a 9-volt battery? It's 6 small 1.5-volt batteries. These are smaller than a AAA cell. Now that we've gone to the trouble to destroy this battery, is there anything in here we can recycle? Sure there is. Have you ever needed a 9-volt battery clip and you didn't have one? Or you wanted one that's a little heavier duty than you'd pick up at Radio Shack? Well, then this is exactly what you need. Just add a little wire and some smoke and solder to create the perfect 9-volt battery clip. The red positive lead goes to the larger of the two terminals. Now I'll take some of my favorite glue, which is 3M weather strip adhesive. We'll use it as an insulator and also a way to glue the bottom cover of the battery over the rear of our battery clip. And now we've got the world's heaviest duty recycled 9-volt battery clip. And now back to our original topic. Today I wanted to talk about specialized electronic devices. You can get them to do most anything you want. You just got to look a little. Here's one I've used a number of times. It's the LM34 Precision Fahrenheit Temperature Sensor. This device is in a TO92 case, and it looks like a transistor, but it's actually a chip. It's calibrated to read degrees in Fahrenheit with a guaranteed accuracy of 1 degree, and it draws less than 90 microamps of current. It only has 3 leads, an input voltage which can be anywhere from 5 to 30 volts DC, an output voltage which reads 1 millivolt per degree Fahrenheit, and a ground terminal. Now I'm not sure what I'll ultimately use this device for, so for our testing purposes today I'm just going to build up a little test harness with a socket on one end that I can plug the chip into. We'll use our homemade battery clip to connect the 9-volt battery, and we'll use the Simpson 260 volt ohm meter set to 2.5 volts DC scale. My little meat thermometer is showing 76 degrees. It looks like the Simpson is showing 0.77 volts, so that's 77 degrees. And the cheap X-Tech meter that I keep in my truck says it's 75. So those are all within a degree of each other. Let's step outside and see what the temperature is like on Thanksgiving afternoon around 4:30 in Mississippi. Our X-Tech digital meter says it's 64 degrees. If we look over at the meat thermometer, it says that it's 59 degrees. And if we take a look at the Simpson 260 and our temperature sensor, it says that the temperature is 60 degrees. We want to test this thing at a little broader range than that, so I stepped into the house and stuck my sensors and thermometer inside the deep freeze. The 2.5 volt scale on the Simpson meter just doesn't give enough resolution to read a temperature this low, so we had to switch to the digital meter. It looks like the temperature in the deep freeze is 2 degrees or 4 degrees, depending on who you want to trust. Our sensor is on the meter here on the left, and since it's guaranteed 1% accuracy, that's what I'm going with. I tried to get the meat thermometer out of the freezer and in front of the camera as quick as I could, but the glass was fogged up, and the temperature had already risen to 20 degrees. Now, pulling out your volt-ohm meter to check the temperature might just make you the life of the party in some circles. Unfortunately, it's not very convenient. There are a lot of other things you can do with this chip, though, and the National Semiconductor data sheets will show you plenty of interfacing ideas for analog and digital circuits. So what does a temperature sensor have to do with radio? Well, nothing at all. Unless you want to talk about how I've used it in the past.
All right.
Now, George, what are you going to do with all this great device that you build up for checking the temp? You got a reason for it, George?
Well, I do, and I'm not sure that hams can fully take advantage of it, but I'll tell you what I've used it for in the past. When I was doing radio engineering, I had, transmitters, say, around 24 kW, and that puts out a good bit of heat. And, the efficiency of the amplifier is going to determine how much heat is generated. So when that amplifier is tuned properly, I had a sensor on the air intake and one on the exhaust stack of the transmitter, and I could take those two temperatures and subtract the input from the output and determine the differential temperature or the amount of heat that was generated in the transmitter. And the remote control unit I had a millivolt input scale on it, so I hooked the two sensors to that, and I could just walk into the control room and take a quick look at the temperatures, and I could tell if that amplifier or transmitter was acting exactly like it should. And this would tell me a number of things. It would tell me if it's properly tuned, if it's putting out the right amount of power, if there was an antenna problem. Just about anything that could go wrong was going to affect that temperature. So it saved me about a 20-mile drive.
It's kind of a slow feedback system, though. How long would it take to change the temperature when something changes?
Not long at all. That little sensor changed immediately when I put it inside the freezer. And, on a big broadcast transmitter, the temperature is, it's going to start changing when something changes. I could tell when the tube was getting weak in the transmitter, it would start generating a little extra heat. So I don't know that amateurs can make use of this since our amplifiers aren't on continuously, but still, it would be a good indicator as to just how hot it was getting inside of there.
So you couldn't quite use it to tune the amplifier for minimum output temperature. A little bit too slow a lag time for that, I suppose.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't use it for that, but what I would do is after I put it in a new tube, I would look at the temperature and write down what it measured, and then I would know that if my temperature difference got off from that, you'd see generally it hang within 1 or 2 degrees of that all the time, regardless of what the room temperature was, if you're subtracting that from the output temperature. So it was pretty effective.
Yeah, you're right. Sideband transmitters and intermittent duty, it's not going to give you continuous feedback like that. But I suppose if you wanted to learn something, you can key down for 30 seconds or so and establish a baseline and then try that every once in a while and see if things are still staying the way they ought to be.
Wow.
So you've got that clock to give away. How did you figure out you wanted to give that away?
Yeah, we want the clock. The kids want the clock.
Let me tell you why you want it first. They probably already know, and a lot of people watching will, but this is set to universal coordinated time, and it reads out in a 24-hour display. In other words, at 1 p.m., it's going to say it's 13 o'clock and go on up to 24. And the reason we'd want this is because, ham radio operators talking with people in different countries need a way to compare time, so we use universal coordinated time, same time you'd get off WWV. And this little clock can be set to that time, and I just set it over there in the corner. And when I'm talking with somebody and I need to know what the UTC is, I can just glance over at this, and it's always got the right time. I don't have to do any calculating to determine what UTC is. So the way we're going to give this away tonight, we're going to have a little contest and drawing. If you'd like to win it, what you need to do is tell me how many sound effects I used in this episode of Smoke and Solder.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah. So
You've tickled Cliff, my floor manager here. He's just busting a gut here.
Yeah, what you'll need to do is probably about Thursday afternoon and Thursday night, the show will be posted at http://twit.tv/show.
Don't do that. Don't HTTP people. Everyone knows it's just Ham Nation.
I think if you put www, though, it won't work. I think you do have just, yeah.
Twit.tv/HN. That's the way it works. Twit.tv/HN.
That is fabulous, George. You absolutely outdid yourself. We can't go ahead, George.
Yeah. So go down, download the episode. Tell me how many sound effects you count in there, and mail your answer to hamnationcontests@gmail.com. And we'll go through, and next week we'll see how many people answered it correctly, and we'll throw the names into the hat and have a drawing. And one lucky viewer will get the 24-hour clock from MFJ.
You should do the car talk thing where you say, write your answer on the back of a $20 bill. They had to stop doing that. They did that for years, and they had to stop because I think people actually started sending in $20 bills. So don't do that.
I think they started writing it on antique car pieces, I believe.
Yeah,
there you go.
They upped the ante to the point where everyone realized they were kidding with the $20 bill.
Yeah, that's the trick.
People took them seriously.
So write it on a ICOM 7800.
Oh, yeah,
that's it. Write it on the back panel of an ICOM 7800, put it in a big box, and send it to George.
That's great. Well, George, we think you did a fabulous job. The kids here brought, George, for you to take an engineering look at some gizmos. Number one, for tea hunting, they say that do a ham fest where kids get to do tea hunting. This is the ComSpec 222 megahertz tea hunt receiver. There's the transmitter. It's used for dogs, cats, or kids, or forgetful moms. And it's on 222 megahertz, even has your call sign on it, com-spec.org. And these make great tea hunters. And Elijah, what was that you had just a few moments ago? You had the handheld? He's got a whole bunch of handhelds, and while they don't quite give the time, this is the one that begins with W.
This is the newest Oshing 60.
And you do all the programming on them, huh?
Only if someone needs help and they can't get over. I do the troubleshooting. If someone in the area or outside the area, if they need help, they can either call me or the other guy.
There you go. So, again, you've got kids ready to help out. Okay, back to net control, Gordo and the gang, and then
can I put him on the spot for a second on the Oshing stuff? They've got they've been advertising a mobile radio on their website for a long time. Not available yet. Not available yet. Any clue on when that's got a lot of people out there wondering when it might be available?
It's done. It will be here sometime in January, and it is done. The thing is done. It's just being certified and other things.
Okay, and Oshing is the correct way to pronounce it.
I always thought it was Wushang.
Oxon. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's great. All right. We'll turn it back to you, and then give me a moment. We're going to switch again, and then I've got a preview as to all next month and what we're going to be doing. So back to you.
All right. We have a couple of minutes left. I'm not sure what we want to do to fill this. Let me go back to Duncan here. And Duncan, we kind of cut you off a little bit so that we could get all the rest of the stuff going on. And it turns out we've got a little bit more elbow room than we thought. Have you been thinking about anything in terms of youth and ham radio that you would like to toss into the program? And let me set this up a little bit, because I belong to a local radio club, and about twice, 3 times a year at the board of directors meeting, somebody says, we need to do something to bring more kids into ham radio. and everyone stares blankly at each other, and no one's got any ideas. So we have tossed out a ton of ideas on the program so far tonight. I'll just record this and play it back the next time that happens at a board of directors meeting. But let me toss it over to you for any further input on that subject.
Well, I think the biggest one, besides contest and field day and all that, is scouting, like Daniel talked about, and I said a little bit about it. If you go to Boy Scouts of America's website, and I don't know that off the top of my head, but if you go to the website, you can find troops that are nearby, and you'll be surprised at how willing they'll be to work with you, just to go to a meeting and do a presentation or something. And honestly, I think that's the easiest and most effective, because you're approaching a group of kids that have an interest in a wide variety of subjects. That's why they're in scouting. Also, you can offer them an incentive to get into ham radio because you've got radio merit badge. And, so if you need to tempt them, you've got a carrot. And, one thing one of my scoutmasters, Bill Henderson, K0VBU did, was if you got your ham radio license, you got radio merit badge, which was kind of a shortcut, but was also, a really good way to get people into it. So I really think what Daniel said about going to scout troops and stuff, I think that's really something that has been an oversight that people haven't. It's been an untapped resource.
You came from a family of hams, so it was probably expected of you from a very young age that you would end up being a ham.
Yeah, somewhat. It started out with my extended family mostly, and I eventually got my 2 sisters and my mom license. Still working on my dad. He likes spending a little more time on the golf course than at a ham shack, which, I can understand. But trying to get him to, maybe I can put a tracker on him, a Pearce tracker or something. See when he gets a hole-in-one if he's telling the truth or not.
Yeah, my brother and I got interested in radio about the same time together, but we were anomalies that no one else in our family, our extended family, had ever had any interest in this. And this was back in the early 1960s. We found mentors. We found some young hams, a couple of years older than we were, that got us into it. And it was available at the high school I went to as a science course. So that's how I got in. George, how old were you when you got into ham radio?
I was a late bloomer. I got into broadcasting when I was 16 years old, got my commercial license back then. But I didn't actually become a ham until, I guess I was 35 years old. I've been a ham for about 20 years now.
What finally tipped the balance for you? What pushed you over?
The FCC dropping the Morse code requirement. A friend of mine, Jim N5SPE, who does Amateur Logic with us, called me up one Friday night, and he says, the FCC has dropped the code requirement. I've got the study materials. I'm going to come to your house tonight. You can study Saturday, and we'll go take the test on Sunday. So that's kind of how it went. And more or less the same thing happened when I went from technician to extra, when the FCC stopped requiring the code for that. I studied for a couple of weeks and went and took it. I'd worked on radio for a number of years, so I had a little experience already. But I just never had taken the time to become a ham, and I really didn't upgrade to general back when I got my technician ticket because, I was working with transmitters every day anyway and doing all that stuff. But after I'd been out of working, as a broadcast engineer every day for a few years, I kind of missed it, and HF was a great opportunity to get back in and do a little tinkering again.
Yeah.
Oh,
well,
that's great.
You were a lot of hams when the Morse code requirement was dropped or being proposed being dropped. They said, well, it's going to be the end of ham radio. We're just going to get a lot of CBers into ham radio. So clearly, you are both a CBer and the end of ham radio. So put a shot up of George. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to look at the end of ham radio. This is what it looks like.
The horrors.
The last time I talked on a CB was probably 1976. I worked in a store that sold them, so I had to repair them and do installations and all of that. And I got burned out real quick. But
Gordon,
there are a lot of CBers on ham radio, and a lot of them were here before they dropped the code, I think, if you did some checking around.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
CB has always been a route into ham radio. And for the hams that you make fun of it and complain about it, well, it's a really garbage band. But
That's
folks
right.
who got interested there and then move on to ham radio, well, they're good hams. Gordon, how old were you when you got into ham?
I got into ham at 15 as a shortwave listener, and then get into Class A UHF CB radio with a vocal line radio, and then Class D when they opened up that band after they took it away from the ham radio operators, a portion of 10 and 11 meters.
Okay, so how old were you when you got the ham license?
Got my ham license actually as a novice back in 1957. 57.
So you were, what, about 17 or so?
Yeah, I was just a young kid back then.
So I was 15. So we all started as teens. Well, you and I started as teens. George was practically middle-aged when he got started. But good, long ham radio careers, and I think we've been having a lot of fun.
Oh, we
Gordon,
sure have.
What is coming up next month?
Okay,
sorry, Duncan,
coming up for next month, I'm going to put Hannah and Julian off to my right here, which would be your left. Well, maybe not. They were the ones that did the great videos of, well, I'll let them tell you. Hannah, who do we have coming up next week in Couples Month? Hannah?
Yes, next month we're looking forward to kicking off December with an interview with Wayne and Sharon Spring, W6IRD and K6IRD. They will be showing us their shack, and we get to interview them.
Wow, and it's a great interview next week. And then who do we have week after next?
Week after that, we have Dan and Kristen Dankert. That's N6PEQ and K6PEQ. They have an amazing ham shack that we were amazed to see.
It was. Julian, you were able to fill up that whole ham shack with your videos, right?
Yeah, I was, because primarily I put a lot of their radio gear in my pockets before leaving. It was amazing.
So that's it at this end. And all the kids, I'll let them say 73. 1, 2, 3.
73.
And back to you.
All right. Well, Duncan, thank you very much for joining us here on Ham Nation. I hope we will see you again. I think that Bob Heil may have something like that in his back pocket. So look for Duncan again on Ham Nation, and let me turn it over to you to say goodbye.
Oh, well, thanks for having me on the show. It's a pleasure talking to everyone, and 73.
All right. 73 to you. George, let me give it to you for your wrap-up.
All right, 73, everyone. Had a great time tonight. Remember, tell me how many sound effects, and you could win this handsome MFJ 24-hour clock. See y'all next week. 73.
And don't forget, everybody, to download the latest amateurlogic.tv podcast and have a lot of fun with George and his crew. And Gordon, your turn to say goodbye.
All right. Say goodbye. We'll see you all next week. It's Couples Month in December. See you this weekend, Atlanta HRO. See you there.
Yeah, I'll see you in Atlanta. Those of you that show up, Gordon and I will be there live and in person. Signing autographs, probably. Bob Heil will be back next week. Thank you, Bob, for the opportunity to host Ham Nation once again. I am Gary Pearce, KN4AQ. It's been a lot of fun, and we will see you next Tuesday night on Ham Nation. Over and out.